Gościmy Trudi Canavan, autorkę bestsellerowej serii trylogii Czarnego Maga oraz wielu innych książek z Australii. Hello, Trudi.
Hello.
So, is it your second, third, which time you are here in Poland?
This is my third visit to Poland. The first visit I went to only Warsaw, and this second and third visit I'm going to Krakow and Warsaw, so see more of the country.
So how do you like Poland?
I love Poland. It's lovely here. I like that it's cooler weather than Melbourne. This is my favourite sort of weather where it's bright and sunny but also not too hot, because Melbourne gets very hot. I love the food. I love the people. They're so patient with me not speaking Polish very well. It's a lovely place to be.
You've mentioned that you were in Warsaw and in Krakow. So which one is better? We have the ongoing war between Warsaw and Krakow, so it's really hard.
Very hard. Well, Krakow is very pretty. Warsaw is rather grand. I don't think I could choose between the two.
You don't have to. How do you feel about being the best-selling author, because your books are bestsellers all the time? Is it easier or harder to you to write a novel when you know that there's a lot of people waiting for the new book?
Well, it's easier in many ways because I know that people want it. So there's nothing like pleasing other people with your stories. It's wonderful to know that all the work that I put in is going to be worth it because people are going to be enjoying it. It's not necessarily harder to think about what to write, which you would think it might be harder to because if I was to try to please everybody, it's just not possible to please everybody. So when it comes to what I write, mostly I'm pleasing myself. So I write what I think is fun, and then I hope that everyone else will like it.
I know that you are reading opinions of your fans. Does it affect your creations? Do you think about it when you create a new book?
Only a little bit, every now and then. Mostly I think with issues. There are issues of gender, social justice issues, things like that, where the more I read in the internet reactions to my books and other people's, the more I think there are ways I can improve. Sometimes people pick out little tiny plot things that I can't fix, but I try to do better next time. So, yeah.
Did you ever think of writing something other than a fantasy novel? Maybe some real science fiction with robots?
Not science fiction so much, and I don't read a lot of science fiction, but I like horror.
Okay.
And I would like to write a horror book one day. I have an idea for a young reader, a young adult horror novel that's been simmering away in the background for, more than 10 years. Maybe one day I'll get around to writing that one. But I think that would be fun. I think I like books that are very strong emotional, more so than intellectual. Mm-hmm. So horror very much plays into that.
Whispers of the Mist Children was your first story. And since then you were publishing only trilogies.
Well, there's one prequel.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a standalone book. So.
Yeah, except Magician's Apprentice. That's the one.
Yeah, Magician's Apprentice. And there is also a novella about 12,000 words long, I think, which is called The Mad Apprentice. And that's the story of why the Guild banned black magic, which you can find in, I think, an anthology called Legends of Australian Fantasy. And there's a couple of other short stories. It's all on my website. There's a little list of short stories I've done. And I've written a Doctor Who novella.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah, one of the time trips. It's called Salt of the Earth. And one of the interesting things about being in Poland at the moment is I went to see the salt mine. Mm-hmm. And when I was doing research for Salt of the Earth, I discovered the salt mine on the internet when I was doing research. And I thought I would really love to go there. And this trip, I ticked that one off the list.
And did you like it?
I did. I think I got a few details wrong in my story, though.
Wow, that's great. What are the advices for the young adepts of writing you would give?
Read a lot. read particularly in the genre that you want to write in, but also occasionally look beyond it because it can give you interesting ideas. Write a lot. Write a great deal, because the best way to get good at writing is practice. And the third thing is get feedback, because you can write a lot and keep making the same mistake. If you can get other people to read your work and give you good criticism for it, then they will break you of bad habits. They will steer you in a good direction. So they're my 3 pieces of advice.
I'm pretty sure you read a lot. So what did you read recently?
At the moment, I'm reading The Cardinal's Blades by Pierre Pevel. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm really enjoying it. It's like The Three Musketeers, but a different world, and has dragons.
You've told me that you're not much into the sci-fi. So let's talk about fantasy. Magic seems to be the most important part of your words. It is, in fact. And so if you were to create the world without the magic, what would be the next element of the fantasy world you would choose instead?
Probably some sort of fantastical animal or mythological creatures.
Dragons.
Maybe not so much dragons. I might want to try to find something less well used. There's plenty of people write dragons and do it very well, so I don't think I could add to that. But I'd like to find some interesting little mythological creature or beings of some sort some sort of mythological creature or little beings that I could actually twist and make an interesting new fantasy idea out of.
We're waiting for the premiere of your next book. It will be Angel of Storms, the second volume of this trilogy, and it is going to be published in October. Okay, I know that already, but
Holland will have it first.
Yeah, that's right. And have you already finished it? Finished writing it?
Well, I finished the first draft.
Okay.
And just before I came on holidays, just before Easter, I finished the editing, the main sweep of editing. When I get back at the end of this month, I'll be doing the proofing, and then it's out of my hands. It's out into the world. But of course, there's all the design and printing and all that still has to happen. So
yeah,
lots of work still to do.
So what can we expect from the book? What's going to happen to Tien and Riel?
Well, I can't tell you too much because that would spoil the story.
Yeah.
I begin with Riel, who has travelled to start a new life in a country quite different to her own. And she's made a life for herself. She's become a tapestry artist. And then in the first chapter, there's a big siege. In the local country, a rebel has risen up. He's called the usurper. He comes in. The city's under siege. She's trapped there with her friends. And then a person turns up who just makes the army go home and walks up to the city gates. And as they get closer, she recognises him. So there's interesting things ahead for Riel there. I won't tell you what they are.
Okay.
And then I move on to Tien. It's the same format as the previous book, where I had a big chunk of one character and then another chunk, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And Tien is out in the worlds, because we left him, of course, in the last book. He travelled out into the worlds. He'd left his own world. And he's learnt magic. It's about 5 years later, so we pick up about 5 years later. Okay. He's learnt magic. He's become a teacher at one of the most famous schools of magic in the worlds. And he teaches mechanical magic, because he's like a beetle, so he's teaching everyone how to make machines use magic. At the very beginning, he has kind of the fantasy equivalent of a robot war, where his students have made little insectoids and they're fighting each other. But then news comes that a very powerful sorcerer who has been in charge of the worlds, all the worlds, for over 1,000 years. It's very powerful. He's come back. He's been missing, and he's come back into the worlds. And one of he enforces his laws very severely, very, very strongly. And one of these laws is that you can't teach other magicians how to travel between worlds, and you can't form large schools.
Oh.
So the school has to disband almost overnight, and it leaves Tien with no job, nowhere to go, because everyone else has gone home, but he can't go home. He gets stuck in his own world. and no way of fixing Vela, because he'd been putting that off till he learnt more. So he has to find his new way in the world.
Okay, I'm guessing that at some point Rio is going to meet Tyan, but I will not ask about it.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
I'm not going to give that one away.
Okay, last time when you were in Poland, you said that it is a lot of fun to create a new world. So how many words we will learn from your new book?
Oh, I had lost count.
Oh, that many.
There's many, many, many words. One of the most fun things about writing this book is that I can just let my imagination go wild. I can create worlds that, in fact, I would love to write a whole little story set in all the little worlds. And sometimes you only see them a glimpse as a person travels into that world and straight back out again. But to make them not seem very all the same, I just let my imagination go crazy. Entire worlds that are jungles and worlds that are deserts. Worlds that are volcanic. Yeah, worlds with very strange animals. Like I have one world, which is a friend of Tyan, lives in a world that has these giant lizards that have these. You think they're nests if you see them from above, but they're actually the humans build nests on the back of the lizards, and they travel on them. So it's been so much fun just making up more and more ideas.
I'm pretty sure it will be a lot of fun to read about it. So.
I hope so.
There will be Angel of Storms. There will be Successor's Son next year. So what's beyond?
Ooh, well, I still am very sure that I want to write another Black Magician trilogy sequel.
Okay.
Which will be set sometime maybe 1 or 2 decades after the last sequel, the Traitor Queen. And it will involve Sonia's son Lorcan and Tavara and their children, and Sonia, of course, who will be 60-ish by then, so very much a matriarch. But also you've got Sachaka is now ruled by the traitors, and I'm probably giving the spoilers away for people who haven't read that series. But Sachaka is very different now. There's a lot of trade between the countries. There's the gemstones, of course. And then you've got that hint that I had at the end of the series of gunpowder and the implications that might have on magic. So there's lots to explore there.
I see you have the whole idea already prepared.
I'm still drawing it all together. It takes time. That's why I like to write another series between. Because I think it's better if I take time to let all these ideas come together and breed. There's other ideas I have too for different projects. I would like to put together a bigger anthology, a collection of short stories. I just don't get much time to write short stories. But that's something I'd like to do in future as well.
You have some short stories written down and hidden somewhere where no one can find it?
Well, they're on my computer. They're in a directory called Incubator.
Oh, yes. Nice name.
Yeah, they sit there, and some of them are mostly written, and some of them are still waiting for that second or third element that makes the story come together. I wanted to write some short stories that relate to the Millennium's Rule trilogy as well, so there's a few possibilities there. Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking forward to it. I hope they will be published soon. Naszym gościem była Trudi Canavan, bestsellerowa autorka z Australii. Thank you very much.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.